Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Mr. Clifford, and this is Engineering 2. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really do wish that we could meet in person. It's always great to meet parents of my students. It would be even better if I could actually meet your students instead of the postage stamp size picture on my computer screen. Obviously, it is what it is. So I'm really excited about Engineering 2 and robotics in general. Obviously, a distance learning and an engineering class makes things a little on the hard side. Most students take engineering because they want to actually make things, and that's difficult to do if we don't have access to a shop and material and whatnot. So my fervent hope is that we are able to go at least to a hybrid model, if not full-fledged face-to-face regular school. That'd be ideal. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the class, introduce you, show you my guest room, um, and so talk a little bit about it. What we're doing, Carmel High is in a little bit in a bit of a transition period in our engineering offerings. And so we have two engineering courses, Engineering 1 and Engineering 2. However, they're not sequential despite their names. We use a national program called Project Lead the Way as the basis for these courses. Um, I found those lessons to be fairly cookie cutter, a little recipe style, and that it didn't really lend itself to really engineering in terms of formulating an idea, finding a way to execute it, and revise that. So I do have some ideas in terms of how I really want to change the course. Primarily, I want to make Engineering 1, not this class, but the class that comes before it, an introduction to engineering, and really make this class, the focus of this class, be on robotics. Uh, and that ultimately, my hope is that Engineering 1 will be a prereq for Engineering 2. This particular course is rather small in terms of size. We don't have very many students in here. I think there's 10. So pretty small. If we can get to a hybrid model, that would be outstanding, and I'd be able to meet students, half the class at a time. We'd really be able to do I think, some pretty cool things. So this is the topics that we cover in class. Now, obviously, the skills are a little hard to do in this distance learning model. So we do want students to have an appreciation for the 6 different simple machines, to be able to do some things at home with things that are around the house that they can use. Understanding gear ratios, understanding mechanical efficiency of things, and that tends to be a little textbooky. Again, it's not real hands-on necessarily, but we also want students to be able to understand electronics. It's an important part of robotics, and it's an important skill and idea for students to understand. So we'll do a pretty deep unit on electronics. Your students will be issued Raspberry Pis and 2 different types of kits that go along with those Raspberry Pis. One is basic electronics, so they'll just be able to get the Raspberry Pi to link some LEDs on and off, to do different things, to play sounds, to write some code that will be able to utilize the Raspberry Pi's processor in the correct way. It also has some small motors. They'll be able to get gears to turn, things to move. And then the second kit is actually a small uh, robotic car that they'll be able to make using that Raspberry Pi. So that's my hope is that that'll get us to January, and then by hopefully we'll be able to meet and we can move on to actual ideas. So there are some Arduino kits. We have, as I mentioned, the Raspberry Pis. That's something new. Your students do not have them because they have not yet arrived at this point. We also have some Tektronix kits, and we're considering passing those out as well. Those are a little bit more expensive, a little bit more. There's a lot more parts that can be lost and that sort of thing. So we're working through that. If we continue a distance learning or a hybrid model into the second semester, we will definitely roll those out to students. The idea is that there's going to be a dovetail between Engineering 2 and our FIRST Robotics team. And that involves pretty good sized 120-pound robot. And students need to have an appreciation for both the mechanics of how that works, the electronics, certainly a little programming. It's not a programming class per se, but in order to get a machine to actually move, there is some code that they're going to need to at least be able to appreciate and understand. So that's the course in a small nutshell. Uh, and so that, again, your students are going to be learning engineering concepts. The way an awful lot of engineering works, it's trial and error. I come up with what I think is the best plan possible, the best idea I can come up with. I design it, I implement it, and then we find out what works and what doesn't. Maybe there is a weak point, or maybe that is an inefficient solution to a particular problem. Um, Certainly, shop safety is really, really important once we get to a shop. So covering those ideas and those topics and making sure that students are pass a test before they can actually use the mills and the drill presses and the saws that we have available to us. So the course itself is there's not any homework. That when we're in the shop, there's absolutely zero unless a student is absent, one needs to make some things up. Most of the projects that we do tend to be group projects. There are some tests and some quizzes that I put in there to make sure that students can demonstrate their knowledge. I have students do a blog, and that's a nice way for students to be able to communicate with me their understanding and appreciation for the ideas that we're covering in class. When we are able to meet face to face, the actual manufacturing of things, and kids are able to produce items. I like authentic projects, so to go out to the teachers, go out to the school, find what is a specific problem that we can solve, um, and have the students actually manufacture that and have a bid process, and to be able to solve that particular problem. Whether that's a doorstop was an example that what's the best way that we can create a doorstop that's actually going to be effective and efficient. And then, so how are some things that you can do to help your student be successful? Well, the main thing is for them to actually attend class. That has not been a problem. At the start of the year, kids are definitely showing up. They know how to access my Zoom meetings. They know how to access my Google Classroom, just so that you know this class meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays, both at from 10:15 to 11:45. I would suggest that you have conversations with your students about what are you doing in engineering? What are the projects that you're working on? What are the topics that you're discussing in class? What are some of the issues that are coming up? I also have a remind that's a way of texting to everybody in the class. You can join that as well. If there's a specific project that is due and I need to make sure that everybody is cognizant of this well in advance, I can do a remind. You'll be able to get those as well. The other feature that is nice is that if I have a technical problem or if there's an issue and I need to communicate something to the entire class, one text will go out. So the way to do that is to text um, at Cool Robots to the number 81010, and you will automatically get assigned to that. I do have what I call a cheat sheet in this class. We don't have a lot of external um, websites and logins that students need, so that's kind of a nice feature. But if you want access to that cheat sheet, I did send that out just before the start of school to all parents that were on my roll. But here's a link that you can pause this video and get this, write this number down. That will get you to the cheat sheet so that you'll be able to help your student if they need to access, again, what's the Zoom code? I lost it. It's whatever, that's all available to you. Certainly, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, either by phone, that's my school phone, I think on the cheat sheet, there's my cell phone if you need to text me, and the best way to contact me, obviously, is with email. My inbox is filling up quite regularly with a lot of students asking really good questions. So that's me. That's Engineering 2. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that we can actually meet face to face someday. All right, thanks a lot.